Welcome to Sambhashana, a fortnightly talk show where I'll be presenting conversation with diverse personalities from various industries. I'm your host, Nilima Somashekar. For this week, we have with us a very valuable person of my PR career who I look upon for many reasons, Xavier PRabhu, founder, MD of PRHUB, member of the Global Board and President APAC and IPRX. Xavier has donned many hats from a TEDx speaker, board advisor, consultant, journalist, editor, copywriter, and a teacher in an eventful career spanning over 28 years. Xavier has consistently been ranked among top 100 professionals in branding and communications in India. Also, he is identified among top 100 social influencers in India and from the PR industry. A very warm welcome to you, Xavier, and I'm delighted to have you in Sambhashana on the area where you have worked extensively for a very long time.
Thank you, Nilima. It's a real pleasure to be talking to you here as well. And I've also observed how you've grown in confidence, grown in your own understanding of the space and the role that you play in. So it's nice to be talking to you here as well.
Thank you, Xavier. That was very kind and generous of you to say that. And in today's episode, Xavier will be sharing with us his views on many aspects concerning the PR industry. Now, Xavier, concerning the industry is stepping into a new financial year. I would like to understand from you, what are the PR trends that we should look out for?
Yeah, so one of the things that is definitely happening, Nilima, is that business is bouncing back, and a lot of companies are trying to get back to the pre-COVID normal, both from a operations and a business performance perspective. But I think the media is still not back to the pre-COVID levels. So I think this year would be all about how do we manage that dichotomy, which has not existed before. Because if you just look at 2019 to 20 before COVID stuck, the media was, at where it was, and the business was, probably not doing really well, but business was at a certain level. So there was no dichotomy. But today you have a situation where the business probably is bouncing back to the pre-COVID level, but the media, at least I'm saying the traditional media has not been able to. So I think that will be the first, thing that I think the PR industry needs to factor in and address, which means probably we'll end up doing more beyond the traditional media. So I think a lot of people have said COVID didn't, make many things happen, but it did accelerate the change or the momentum of that. I think with this year, I think that's what all of us will be forced to do. I think that will be the first major trend. The second, of course, is the talent problem that we continue to grapple with as an industry. At each agencies, I think there is both retention and an attrition problem. Both are one and the same, two sides of the same coin. And I don't think there are any silver bullets that any of us have figured out now. So I think that will be a long, protracted process of figuring out solutions this year. So one of the hope I have is that at least this whole thing is like a moving wheel, and people will move and move and move. At some point of time, they have to stop, right? So at that point of time, stability will happen is the hope, and I hope it happens by end April, early May, or latest by June, so that all of us can get on with what we have to do to deliver value to clients and all of that, and not still be focused on the talent part of it. So that will be the second problem. The third, I think, which is much more smaller now, and I think much more probably handleable of the problems, is the hybrid work norm that we will all come to. But I think that's a lot more manageable, because I think the last 2 years has taught us how to handle completely virtual, as in work from home mode, yes, to a part, work from home to work from office mode to now a mixed one. So I think probably we are all prepared in some sense to that. So I don't see that as a big issue. So I see that, these are the couple of things that you will see out in the coming year from all of us in the PR industry.
Oh, that's quite a things to look upon, Xavier. Moving on from what the trends are, I would like to go back on few of the things that we've been doing in the past. Like for example, back when we've started with press releases and press conferences, the way we were disseminating our news, and now with this post-COVID era, we have. Adapted to a digital way of storytelling. I hope you agree to that. And I would like to again bring your perspective into this digital way of storytelling.
Yeah. So Neelima, see, storytelling, we've all been speaking about it for the last 3-4 years now. And one thing that people realize is that digital or physical or phygital, which is a mix of physical plus digital, stories are stories. I think let's not forget it. Stories are just stories. So I think the real focus should have been and must be, what are the stories you want to tell, right? What kind of stories do you want to tell? How do you want to tell them? See, digital is just a medium of delivery. If you don't have clarity on what stories you want to narrate and why you want to narrate them and in what way you want to narrate them, I think then the whole purpose of the storytelling becomes meaningless. See, we all started with in PR about, just promotional messaging, right? Just amplifying only positive things about the clients and brands that we handle. And then we are now talking about stories. But what we don't understand is stories actually requires a huge shift in our attitude and our skills and the way we looked at client content. I think that is still, I think, a learning curve for, I think, both sides. I think there is also challenges on the other end. It's not just on the agency side. It's also on the other end because clients are still looking at traditional messaging. I think a lot of them have not still understood what stories really mean. Even today, people are talking about, promote me as the best company in the space. Now, that's not a story.
Yes.
That definitely is not a story.
Yes.
A story has to have a certain components in it, and it can then be promoted, but the promotion can't be the story.
Yes.
Now, I think people don't understand this, right? So I think that is where I think we are all, really, stuck today. But I think it's a learning curve, right? We've started something that is not the focus for, decades now. We've now spoken about storytelling, and then digital has become, imminent, and we can't work around digital now. So I think over the next few years, all of us will figure out. And, yesterday night, I was in Delhi listening to a talk by Jayan Mehta, who's the CEO of Amul.
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually talking about how they have seen Amul as a content creator and how they've been telling stories, whether it is their hoardings or their first crowdsourced film that they did with Smita Patel 30, 40 years back. I think is probably, storytelling done well very, very early. These guys have done it much, much earlier. So I think we need to go there. And I think it takes a completely new attitude towards looking at companies and brands. And, I think we got to get there, and it's not easy. It needs investment. It needs resources. It needs a long-term commitment from the management, which I think is going to be difficult to come by for a lot of companies. But I think it's a process. I'm hopeful, and I'm sure we will have good examples coming out of India in the next few years.
Yes, and Xavier, adding to this, PR has always been about storytelling. I think even when we go back and do a narration, it has always been storytelling, and it will continue to be story. If you don't tell a story, how would you even pass on a message to someone?
Yeah, so the thing is, right, see, we were used to only one channel. See, what we did was, we were always storytellers, but we tuned and, prepared and built those stories for journalists.
Yes.
Assuming the journalists then get interested and then, broadcast that story the way you wanted to a larger end audience, right?
Yes.
So I think all of us were, tuned towards that, right? So look at it. Your story pitching was not at the end audience. Your story pitching was at the journalist, who at the end of the day is an intermediary. They are not the end audience. Now, but today we are in a space where we are talking about storytelling to the end audience. Now, that's a very, very different shift, right? Because let's not mistake that while the journalists are journalists and they are good at what they are doing, they're not the end audience.
Yes. Yes.
Today we are talking about storytelling to the end audience. Of course, we continue to tell stories to the journalists, and we are also, doing storytelling to the end audience. I think that is something that I think we all need to be prepared for, because the end audience storytelling is very different, right? And I'll tell you, tomorrow, if I were to go to a kindergarten school with 45 kids there and I'm asked to tell stories, I think they expect very, very different. Probably they expect me to act, smile, cry, do all of that. And that's storytelling for those kids. Now I have to change myself for that, whoever I am as a brand, right? I'm just giving you an example, right? But
Yes.
I think that's what we all have to go through, right? This shift from, just focused on one audience and trying to build stories to versus, the end audience, which is much larger, more diverse, more difficult and all of that.
That's a good takeaway, Xavier, from you, wherein you're bringing the focus or asking our PR professional to up our whatever skill set and keep in mind about the end audience. That's a very
Absolutely.
good thing.
Yeah.
And, now you have taken us about the end audience, and I would just want to come back to a little bit of the way we monitor these stories. When I started my PR career way back in 16 years ago, we manually we're calculating the PR value, where we would look at whatever the calculations where the ad value into thrice is the PR value. But now what we are seeing is from a data perspective that we have come across many tools, many tools like Muckrack or there are many other tools. So I wanted to understand from you, what is the value add that these tools bring in from an agency point of view or from a client point of view?
No, obviously they bring a lot of value, and I think there will be a trend even in Indian market, which has lagged behind in adoption of these tools for many, many years. I think it's an inevitable path that all of us will traverse, Nilima. I think there's no if and but about it, and it's a question of time. I think that is easily said than done. The second is, does it make our job easier, more effective? The answer is yes. And the challenge, I believe, comes from two areas. One is that, and I think that's the biggest one that I think we all face today, is that how many clients are willing to pay for it or invest in it.
Yes, yes.
Right. See, the thing is, it's a cost. You can, I think I know sort of what 40, 50 tools are available today. I can use all the tools, but they are all going to cost me subscriptions. Now, who's going to pay for that? Right. And if the client is not willing to pay for that as a separate item, right? And he's saying bundle it. How long can you bundle it?
Yes.
Right. So I think that is one that needs to change, right? For monitoring to become a reality and for us to become more effective. And let's understand that the client also gains value, right? When I do a better monitoring and a better value creation, which is captured on record for the client benefits. So in essence, you're asking, someone to pay for them benefiting anyways in the end. So it is just the intermediary who's doing that, passing along, right? But I think is continuing to be an issue. I think some clients are agreeing to it, but most clients are still not open to it, which means the agencies have to invest. And I think that's always going to be very difficult for agencies, particularly in today's context where the last 2 years have been fairly turbulent for most of them. So I guess if the business really becomes good this year, probably some of us will start bundling it in, even if the client is not willing to invest in.
Yes.
So I think you will see a adoption. There is no ifs and buts about it, but I think it will be more gradual than many people imagine it to be. Nilima. I think it will be over a period of time that tool adoption will happen, and it will not just happen in monitoring. I feel it will happen across.
Okay. All right. Now that you have given us your thoughts on this, again, sometime back, I even saw that PR is talking about artificial intelligence, that is AI. How do you think? But I personally wanted to understand how is that we can integrate AI in PR.
So so there are multiple ways in which AI can come into PR. AI can come in at the stage of content creation itself, because the game has changed now, right? So no longer is content only at the end audience. For example, search has become so important.
Yes.
Googles of the world are so important for you, irrespective of whether you're a B2B brand or a B2C brand or which audience you target. So what really works in search, right? AI can help you there, because Google has a dashboard, right? How it sort of ranks on keywords, right? So AI can help us understand that better and can guide us better on, what terms, words you use in your content. The story that you're creating will then be of, a search impact or better impact on search or influence search better. So AI can, help in that as well. AI can also help us in very quickly creating content, because once you feed in a certain objectives and all of that, AI probably can help us create content very quickly. So that is at the back end, right? AI can help us. The other area AI can help us is also in targeting. I think that is where a lot of usage is going to happen. I think gone are the days when you said, I do PR and you're visible. I think people are going to ask, I don't want to be visible. I want to be visible only to the audience that really are relevant for me. And that probably maybe, smaller and smaller and smaller now, Nilima. Look at a D2C brand. Their addressable audience is not in sometimes crores. Their addressable audience is probably in lakhs. So
Okay.
why will they go and do something where it has a reach of 1 crore when their audience itself is in lakhs? So what
Okay.
happens then is you need targeting, and then data comes there. Okay,
Okay.
so the big data, AI, all of that will come in there, because you can use them to then say, okay, if I do this medium, then I have a targeted messaging for my audience. So I think that is where big data and AI will come in and help PR. The third it will help us is, of course, measurement. Okay, so it will definitely help us better in monitoring and measurement as well. So it will help us in all the three areas, right? In terms of what we have to create, planning that messaging, the story, all of that, and helping that the messaging and the content is done in a targeted manner to the audience. And on the other end, I think also measuring it. So all the three areas it will have, and I think it takes a lot of investments to do that. So I don't think many in the industry have even thought of doing that. But I think again, like I said, it's all very gradual adoption that will happen because it's inevitable, and I think it will have to be done in collaboration with clients.
Xavier, looping in what you said about search, monitoring platforms like Muckrack or Meltwaters and connecting it with AI, I think when we want to measure it, I think we certainly need to have these kind of tools, because unless and until we have these tools, we won't be able to measure is what is my understanding is from what you said.
Or you can't measure holistically. For
Okay.
example, you mentioned multiple tools. They also give you a heat map of
Mhm.
sentiment.
Mhm.
Okay, which is very important if you're a brand, right? Because all the time you're supposed to be listening to your consumers. Now, here on social media or on digital or online, your consumer is talking. The
Mhm.
consumer is expressing themselves. So the data that they give you is data about what your consumer is thinking, saying, or even feeling about your brand. So you got to be listening as a brand to that. So these tools definitely help you do that at scale, right? So manually you may be able to do 10. The tools are able to do it at 30 and 40, right? You don't miss even that, and also do it at more accuracy, right? My heat map, if I do it as a company, maybe this much, but with a tool, it just expands the accuracy of that as well, right? So it is definitely useful that way, Nilima, definitely.
Back in the organization I was working, we were using certain tools, but then as you said, not many organizations are willing to pay for it. I understood now how we integrate this AI into the PR. So thank you so much for sorting me out mentally. So I got that right. And now a little moving away from this, the technicalities of these. The post-COVID era has taught us many things. Okay, and one of the biggest thing that we have learned, that we have to work together, being in this ecosystem in the in the industry, that we have to work together. You being in the agency front, can you share with us some of your experiences on how clients are embracing the idea of collaborating? Are they open to collaborating or working together in the given in this ecosystem, which is very challenging?
Yeah. So, Nilima, what you said was true, right? At the heights of the pandemic, I think all of us became human beings. And I think all of us understood that this is beyond business.
The human element was
Absolutely.
truly,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you
So
look at the curve, it's very high.
yeah, yeah. So I was just hearing a incident, recently when a very senior industry guy was sharing this, and I think it's a large Indian listed company, and their board meeting to discuss the annual results. Right, the CEO of the company began the meeting by saying, "We grew our profits 30% in the last year. We did an outstanding performance and all of that." End of the meeting, three of the independent directors on the board actually wanted to resign because they said, "Look, here is a year in which we lost dozens of our employees. As a CEO, you didn't feel that was important. You felt profits was important, and then you started your talk with that, right?" So I think empathy has come back now. I think you can't work around it, right? So to me, I think, yeah, we saw it. A lot of clients offered to help us. A lot of clients were okay if things were slowed down. Okay, so a lot of things, a lot of clients did. But I'll tell you the real challenge with that is that as business sort of comes back to normal and people are looking to grow, all of that, even clients will face pressure. So, today I think they'll come back to saying, "Can you just deliver?" Uh, you know, so I think that's okay. That's absolutely fine because I think everything is cyclical, Nilima. See, and I think, yeah, that's true of even our personal lives as well, right? When someone is sick at home, we all care for them so much. Once they get back, we all get back to our normal lives. It doesn't mean that we don't care or
Yes.
care has gone anywhere. It is just that we know that it is normal now. Let's all go back. And that's what we have all come back to now almost. So I wouldn't expect that, but I think I expect empathy to stay.
Yes, yes.
We
That's the kind.
can't do certain things anymore.
Mhm.
Okay, so that is there. I think is something that has become very, very relevant, and I think there are a lot of those things that are coming into play, which I think all of us have to be aware of, even small things, right? And I think, yeah, you got to be sensitive. You got to be aware of multiple factors at play, and fuse them all in. I think those things will stay. Empathy is here to stay, and I don't think it will go anywhere.
Very well said, Sriga. And COVID has made us aware to certain of these things.
Yeah, absolutely, Nilima. Absolutely. And I think COVID was just probably a good lesson for all of us that, human lives are more important. And when your life is at stake, how does it matter whether you missed a project or you missed a goal or you missed something, right? At the end of the day, people are going through grief. And when they go through grief, I think all they need is personal time. They don't need anything else.
Yes.
And I think you need to do that, right? And it was happening at a scale we never imagined before, right? India lost
Absolutely.
over 500,000 of its own citizens, right? And the world lost millions and millions of people,
I
right?
know.
So that's not good, right? That's
Yes,
not something
yes,
that you go through regularly,
yes.
right? Yeah. So, and I think it also is not just India, right? I had a lot of friends outside of
Across the
India as
globe.
well, right? So I think it's a connect that is good, right? You're sort of sharing and caring about, even though it's long distance and it's digital, whatever, but it's still fine, right? You are caring for someone else, right? And saying, stay safe, better, all of that, right? So
Yes, yes, Xavier. I'm like absolutely. I agree with what you're saying, and also very well put across. And now, Xavier, coming up to something where we always speak about the skill sets, in the PR industry. I would want to understand from you because you've been in the industry for a very long time, and you run an agency. I wanted your views on what are the skill sets that a person need to have in this post digital era, and what we have also seen that we have graduated from writing skills or for a press release to a client relations and networking and so on. But specifically, because I'm having this conversation with you, I wanted your views on what are the required skill sets, for this new age.
yeah, so don't make me look old, Nilima. Yesterday night, one of the client heads of marketing, was telling me that he went in Gurgaon. Hey, Xavier, I heard you've been in PR for the last 30 years. I said, no, 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 not yet so much, but don't make me that old. I think I said, I've just, finished in all, I think not in PR, but advertising and PR, 29 years. Not yet 29 years. It will get another couple of months before I finish 29 years in the
My
industry.
intentions were not that, Xavier. I
Yeah.
always said there's
So,
immense
so,
respect.
so I told him 28 years to be precise. Okay. So, jokes apart, Nilima.
Yeah.
So, see, the thing is, uh, you want to be very neutral about this, because I'll tell you something. I don't want to look at it from the prism of me, because see, the Gen Z and the millennials come with their own view of life and success in life. And I am actually mindful and conscious that that definition and the elements that they put in that picture may not be the same as what I did when I got into the industry in 1995. Okay, so I think it may be radically different than what all of us are really putting through, right? So I think that is something that we all have to be conscious of, because I think all of us are looking at a unique frame of skill sets needed, because I think what I was thinking was needed is very, very different from what that Gen Z or millennial is thinking today. And I don't think so they're necessarily influenced by you and your industry and all that, right? I think many of them are individualistic. They really do what they want to do. Okay,
Yes.
so that is the larger picture. Now coming to the industry, I think all of this is meaning two to three things. One is, at the highest level, the person who understands this holistically, the social, the digital, the PR, the content, the media, the entire part of it in an integrated manner, and understands how each of these elements play and can be used to get the optimal impact. I think they're going to be hugely in demand, because I see so few of them. Okay, so that is at the highest level. I don't see many people going there, because it's a lot of hard work, right? I had a conversation with one of my own colleagues multiple months back, and then they said, why should I learn all these individual areas? Get a social specialist, get a digital specialist, get a content specialist, get a media relations specialist, get a servicing person, get a media planning person, get a writer, get a designer, and just tell them what to do and they will figure it out.
Yeah.
What I was telling them then, that is, no, you're missing something very, very important, right? Who will decide when will social break? Who will
Yes.
decide when will digital come? Who will
Yes.
decide when editorial PR will be? Now, the guy who's running digital won't come and tell you when editorial PR should go,
Yes.
because he says, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
The editorial PR person will say, now you tell me when I need to do the press release or the interviews, you please tell me. So there is a need for a person who's seeing it, all of it together in the, as a single holistic thing, and then come and say, hey, you know what, I want to start off with social, and then have digital, the editorial go, and then post editorial, PR is, done for some time. I want to do digital, because when I'm doing digital, I don't want the client to go back to my social assets or to search and not figure there is not much there. So, let's say there's a logic to this, right? There's a flow to it. Now we need that person with that knowledge and skill sets at the top. Now that I think is a very, very big need. And I think there are very, very few people who understand this at scale. Okay, so that's one big problem. The second big problem is, people think that because they are so good on their personal social assets, they can easily be successful on the professional handling of social. Now, I think they're in for a rude shock, because what it takes to make you popular on your Insta is necessarily, and it definitely is not what is going to be required for you to be effective on your client.
Yes.
I think there are very, very two different things. So I think, you need to cross the bridge, learn afresh, and then, probably go through that. And I think that is something that I think a lot of them have to go through, because they have a huge advantage of being digitally native, or much better familiar with technology and digital than all of us. But I think they need to put that to better use when it comes to doing it for brands. I think they're doing it for themselves well. I think the question is, can they transfer that to a professional skill set? The third, you would have heard this everywhere, and you will hear this for the foreseeable future, is writing. Right? It is going to get worse and worse and worse, because I think there is no need to write for many of them. Okay. I think they probably take a resolution that post college, I'm never going to write anymore, because only in college, in school, I'm forced to write exams. The only way of getting it. So I think that's going to be a major problem because, yeah, go ahead.
Xavier, can I interrupt you here
Yeah.
and just share my experience way back in PRHUB? The reason why I said I have immense respect and the way I look at you is, I still remember when IEEE, we have to just go back and give their monthly whatever document to them. You remember how many times that you made us write? Like now you just go back. I'm like this kind of what you say, the foundation of grounding. I'm like, how many people are willing to invest that amount of time into them? Because this writing skill set will take us a long way. Can you believe I sent you a document for this interview? Can when you've seen that, I try and put in the best, all sorts of grammar search. I hope you didn't find any mistakes in that. This learning, what you get, when you emphasize on writing, will take you a long way. When I mean that, for these younger generation who's taking up this career right now, and they might be a little here and there when they do that, but getting it right and putting that across documents, sending it across to a higher level, to the management, to the board, this really, really will help you out. I hope you agree with that.
Absolutely, Nilima. You've been kind and you've been nice and you listened when I asked you to do multiple times the changes.
Yes.
But I don't think so it happens today so easily. I think that is another challenge, right? And that's what I said, right? Things have changed quite a bit, right? And I really understand and appreciate what you're saying, Nilima. And I think it is something that I personally agree with as well, right? But the attitude is neutral, right? There was a set of time where there was a Nilima and others who would listen and make those multiple changes. But there is a time today when the young kid who's just come from college is refusing to do that. So you have to live with it, right? I can't go and say there was Nilima who was really nice and good who did that, because you'll say, who's Nilima? I don't care. It's all about me, right? So I think you have to live with that Gen Z or millennial, right? Who's very clear that this is what they want to do and that's what they don't want to do. But I think, you have to mentor them. You have to engage them in the manner that they are comfortable with, okay, and point to them that it may help them in their life. I think that's the only way they listen, okay. The day they figure out it is important for them, they listen to you.
Yes.
I think it's all about, you taking, like you rightly said, Nilima, an extra effort and time to invest in that. If you don't do that, yeah, it backfires. You see that the old way of, change it doesn't work. Okay, because then it comes back with the question, why? Okay, so you have to be patient, you have to engage, you have to talk to them and make it aware that it is for them and their benefit that this needs to be done. I think it takes patience, more patience than before. But I think, like you rightly said, we need to, because it is so important. It is not going anywhere. You still need mails to be written like mails. You still need documents to be written like documents, right? You see, these things are not going to go away anywhere, right? I hope we can create robots in the future who can do that for us. But till that time, I think we still have to do those things, right? And it's also about you, right? And I also say that, it's also a thing of our own personal identities, right? If Nilima sends out 20 erroneous document, what does it make someone think of her? It's a simple thing, right? So I was just, probably, yeah, you need patience. You need a lot of patience to tell people to this and then, work with them to do that. And also have enough people in the middle who also share the same thing and do it with their teammates who are younger, this all the time. So, so that is what I think the way forward when it comes to particularly writing. And the last thing is technology. I think they have to be more aware of technology and, like you rightly said, the tools and all of that. I think that's also a lot of what the agencies have to do, because this, I think I put it on to more the agencies than the employees, because, tools is something that you need to invest in, not the employees. So I think these are the skill sets that I think one needs to definitely learn. And I think it will be of help to them in their career, whichever way they're on this side or that side, the client side, I think it will still help them
Yeah. And adding to this, Xavier, if you may agree, I would want to add another point to this, or maybe even take your views on this. Somewhere your passion also matters, right? Especially with my experience in PR, with such a long time, you are bound to be a sandwich between your client, between, the media and the organization that you're working in. I'm like, if you're not passionate about, the PR profession, I don't think so you would be able to even survive and take up, the kind of effect, being a sandwich, you would be able to.
Yeah, so I don't think we are given the credit for what we do truly, Nilima, because
Yes.
like you rightly said, right, we are really being sandwiched, and being sandwiched all the time and doing it well and then still delivering results at the end of it is not an easy task. And people expect us to do that day in and day out, and also on top of it with a smile, without breaking your nature and then getting upset or shouting and all of that, right? You just expect still a PR person to be poised,
Yes.
smiling, well mannered, all of that, right? So you
Yeah.
understand, right? So they've really put us in a pressure, right? In essence, right, they're not only saying you have to handle all of this, but they're also saying do so without losing your cool, without coming across as rude, and still you have to be well dressed and come across well and all that kind of stuff, right? So I think people underestimate the amount of pressure that it puts on an individual. Definitely, Nilima. And I think some of it is not necessary. I don't think so. We need to be so much all the time. I think we just have to say at the some time we are all human beings,
Yeah.
right? Even a PR professional is a human being. Like they said to doctors and nurses, right? At the end of the day, how much ever they stretch, there is a point at which they all become human beings, right? So it is with PR professionals.
Yes.
Now, the
Yes.
next thing that Neelima, that I think you rightly said, right? The clients and the media, right? Now, there are two things that I see happening there is that I think the olden way that I was taught was a very good way that this was cushioned out. Now, what I was taught is that you don't engage journalist transactional, right? The first rule of law that I was taught was don't go to them only when you have stories,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right? Engage them,
Mhm.
and in that engagement, if you have an opportunity, pitch it. Now
Yes.
look at
Yes.
the whole approach today.
Mm.
I will not talk to you at all. I don't know who you are.
Mm.
One fine morning, I'll call you saying I have a press release or I
Yeah.
have a pitch. Now that is causing a lot of problems. Okay. Now I think probably that approach itself cushioned the inherent tension between the two. Okay, so what happened was even for the journalist, accepting the pitch or whatever was easier because they didn't see it as a one-off, I have to do, forced to do something for someone, but a conversation that I was having with Neelima, the journalist, and in that, okay, he's also asking me to do this. So it
Yeah.
was a much more easier, better way of handling all of this. And also, this led to better understanding on both sides. I understood the journalist well, the journalist understood me well. So there was also that understanding, the comfort level that allowed us to do a lot of things, right? So, but today, I think, unfortunately, we've gone into the transactional mode. I call you today, I don't call you for the next 3 months. I call you again on the fourth month, right, Neelima? So that is the problem,
A
right?
journalist identity has become just an email ID and a phone number. This is what I've seen. I do not understand where this will lead to. Yeah, those days we never had Facebook or a Twitter to reach out to them. We've got the contact number, we've got a story, we are done with that.
Yeah. So, Neelima, it's good and bad. Good because you can get access to data that you want very, very quickly and instantly. I don't deny that it's useful. But yeah, I think you can't just use it for a transaction.
Yes.
Okay. And also, even if you're pitching one off, okay, I have a lot of them whom I interact with, not so often as I've done in the past. But one thing that they all tell us, at least to understand a bit about who I am and what I do
Absolutely.
before
Absolutely.
you come to me,
Yeah.
right? So I think that is not happening because I think in a lot of ways, I tell the senior journalists there is also a problem at our end, right? And it's better we all be transparent and factual about this, and rather than just say everything is hunky dory, right? Is that I think there are also not enough training that goes from our end with all of these people, that there is a process to doing this, and the process to doing this is not transactional, right? Try and look at it as an engagement.
Yes.
You don't have to get personally close to them, right? That's not the intention. That's not also good for us in multiple ways. But it is about saying that if they're so important to your professional objectives, I think you've got to engage them, right? PR talks about two-way engagement, right? Even in textbooks, we all read two-way engagement. And here, for a most very important audience, we're not doing two-way engagement. You're doing very transactional engagement. And I think this is also in part to a lot of millennials and Gen Z becoming journalists on the other side, who are also not showing interest in engaging. So there is also that problem, right? So it's, in the olden days, I know, right? I used to have a lot of senior people I used to call them by the short name, where I used to almost meet them twice a week in person and for multiple years. So what happens then is, right, there is a knowledge of who they are, what they are, so you sort of have that, familiarity, right? Today, there is none of that, right? So on the other end, also, there is a problem. It's all become virtual. They've also become, no faces, just email IDs and numbers. And this side, there is a set of people who are probably not fully trained, don't understand the importance of it, and then bombarding these people. And that is where this whole thing is there right now. I think it will take a lot of time to change it, Nilima, but I think, yeah, you need to change it. And I think there will be an attempt to change it. And there are people who are doing it still the old way and being successful. And, we just need that number of people to increase. And I think we should just train people to keep doing that better and better. And then also probably ask journalists also to be more engaging, right?
Yes.
For anything
It's
to clap, you need two hands.
It's give and take.
Yeah, absolutely, right. So I think it needs both hands to clap. And I think probably we can put the first hand out, and then they can do, and then we both can clap together. So I would look at it as, mutual engagement. And I think I would put it on both sides, just so that we are all objective and neutral. This is not a blame game about, who's better or who's whatever. I think that's a wrong way to head. I think the thing is, it's more about, we need each other. It's a mutual engagement. I will put my hand out first. Can you also put your hand? Let's clap together. So
yes. Xavier, I must say this was a very insightful session. I have learned so much from having this Sambhashana with you, and we will just try and wrap it up with the last rapid fire, which I've called here. I will be asking you 5 questions, and where you have to try and give me an answer with 1 or 2 words. Okay, and there would be 5 questions. So shall we start with the rapid 5?
Sure. I'm really scared now.
No, nothing. But there are times where I felt that if you want to answer, you can answer the answer. Otherwise, you can take a call on it.
I need a bell next to me, like they do in all the talk shows. Yeah.
I just try to add this, I'm just telling you to make this conversation a little lighter and end it with a lot of positive vibes.
You just said spicy. Spicy is the right word. Yeah.
I do not want to add that.
Yeah. That's diplomatic. Okay, done.
Yeah. Now the first one is, which is the newspaper you read every morning?
The Hindu.
Okay. One business leader you admire.
That's a tough question. Actually, I used to admire a lot of people, but now Ratan Tata.
Okay. A profession which is close to your heart, the founder of PRHUB or a teacher?
In my young age, just a teacher. Right now, I think entrepreneur, because I will do more beyond PRHUB. So I will put it as entrepreneur. Yeah, definitely. And I think investor. So the really 2 things that I would have to do is entrepreneur and investor. Yeah.
The best thing about being a father?
It teaches you to be humble.
Lovely. Your favorite clothing brand?
Favorite clothing brand?
Because I know.
It is actually Benecleat, which is a not so well known Chinese collar shirt brand. Many people may not know, but it's called Benecleat.
Thank you so much, Xavier, for doing this rapid round with me. And before I formally end this, I would like to have your social media handles where people can reach out to you.
Yeah, so it is Xavier PRabhu, which is the LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So it is the same across. Just it's a single word, Xavier PRabhu. I think it's across LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. LinkedIn is the most active for me, followed by Facebook and then Twitter. I am also on Instagram, but I actually am still trying to figure Instagram. And I think I figured out that, Instagram needs pictures of me every day. And I think I need to be prepared for it. I need to create a lifestyle oriented towards Instagram. Right now, yeah. So, or I need to get good selfie skills, which I don't still have. Whether I'm at the airport or the event in Delhi yesterday, I need to find a way to keep on clicking pictures and then keep on putting it up. I think Insta needs a new skill, which I need to pick up.
You can use my services, Xavier.
Oh yeah. But I hope it comes with no cost attached, Nilima. Then I think
we can discuss this. We will discuss that.
Okay.
Right. That's on a great note, Xavier. Thank you so much for your valuable time, I must say. Thank you very much.
Hey, my pleasure, Nilima. And I think I'm happy that you started this. And I think you're a natural conversation person.
Thank you, Xavier, for saying that.
So I think, and the name is also that, right? Sambhashana is conversation, right?
Yes.
And I think you shouldn't just say by Nilima. You should say with Nilima.
All right.
Yeah,
I will.
We are all conversing with you, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So point noted, Xavier. I will definitely make that change.
So, and here is to more great conversations for you and for Sambhashana to be successful.
Thank you so much, Xavier. Thank you very much.
Take care and have a nice weekend, Nilima.
Yes, thank you. You too, Xavier. Yeah.
Bye.